You're listening to Zap Night, a video game review podcast, with your hosts, Danny and Kaylie. Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of Zap Night. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm your co-host, Kaylie.
And today we are reviewing Ar Tonelico, Melody of Elemia. So we've been playing this game for the past 2 months. I finally beat it just a few days ago. I got 44 hours.
I just literally beat it today, but I beat mine at 39 hours and 30 minutes.
Oh, that's not too bad. A little bit better than me, anyway.
What was your final levels?
I think I topped out at I think Liner was at 75.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was at 71.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Just like 1 or 2 characters. I think the lowest though was 69 for mine that I don't really use.
So for a bit of a backstory on the game, it was developed by Guess Corporation, specifically for the PS2. Though I would love to see some sort of remake for it. I don't know if it's on the PSN. Do you know if it's on the PSN?
I don't think so, but don't quote me on that.
It was released in Japan in January 2006, and then it was released in North America on February 2007. And apparently they had the development for setting it up for the Americans was a little bit of a longer process for them. I think that they originally only wanted to do a few months, and then they extended it a little further. But
well, interesting enough, this game had 2 sequels. There was Ar Tonelico 2, Melody of Metaphalica, and then Ar Tonelico Quoga, Knell of RCL. White Knell of RCL is the last game. The series Surge Concerto took place in the same universe as CL No Surge and R No Surge.
Well, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, it's you have to get used to, even in the game, you kind of got all this terminology that's kind of just big chunk.
I streamed the whole thing on Twitch, and if you guys haven't seen us on Twitch, you should go and check us out. You can see me play Ar Tonelico on youtube.com. Just look up Zap Night, and I got a playlist on there of just about everything. I forgot to save the first episode, so there's 2 hours that you're missing, but it really is nothing important. But yeah, I was going through it on Twitch live, and I was butchering some of these terms that they got in here. There was one guy in there, Knight of Elemia, and he is a hardcore Ar Tonelico fan, and I just kept butchering his name, Knights of Elemina, and it was horrible, so I feel bad for that.
Well, I'd like to say, this is your first Ar Tonelico game.
It is, yep.
I did actually play Metaphalica in the past, and I also played a tiny bit of Knell RCL. And while they are sequels, I think you can honestly play the games if you didn't play Elemia too. So I don't think it's necessary. There's quite a few references to the different games, but it's not like
a continuation of the storyline. It's more.
Well,
is it more of
I think
the stuff that's going on in 1 is happening in a different part of the world as what's going on in 2 or 3.
Well, I don't know necessarily. I know that the third one ties into the second one more so than to the first, but the first and the second are very similar as far as setup and whatnot. There's differences and whatnot. It's a new game, a new story, but you can play. I honestly think you could play either one of these 3 without necessarily playing one or the other.
And then the Surge series has nothing to do with.
I've never honestly. I didn't even know that. I knew that they added our Surge, but I haven't really delved much into.
Yeah, I think those are newer games.
Yes,
I could be wrong, but I think they are.
Ar Tonelico Elemia is a PlayStation 2, and I believe Metaphalica is also a PlayStation 2, but the third one is PlayStation 3, actually.
Whoa. So, the story of Ar Tonelico, Melody of Elemia, basically you are Liner, And he is this knight of Elemia who his hometown Platina is being attacked by a virus. And this virus is taking over their guards and attacking, the people. And so he's given the task to go and find a special him crystal to help eradicate these viruses and fight them. So he jumps in a ship and heads down to a lower level. What do they call that lower level? Wings or something?
Wings of Horus,
yeah,
I believe. Because the tower separates from where he is in Platina compared to the people down below in the Wings of Horus, which they're on this, like, floating island.
Right, and the two communities don't really associate with each other. So anyway, he gets attacked in his airship going down to the lower area, and he crash lands on one of the Wings of Horus, one of the areas down there. And that's where he makes his way around and starts meeting some friends, and, they all have things in common enough to want to go on this adventure with Liner and help him find the crystal and so on. What did you think of the game, Kaylie, overall? Or, to the story anyway. What did you think?
The story, I really liked the story. I played this game before we decided to play this for Zap Night.
Were you excited to play it again?
I was. I really wanted. I was torn between Ar Tonelico, Melodies of Elemia, and Metafalica.
I pushed you to play the first one.
Yes.
Because if you're gonna play a series, you want to play the first one.
But I really thought that this game, at least as far as you and me went, I knew that this would be something that you would at least enjoy, at least a little bit. But, I mean, the characters are very well developed. They've got a lot of backstory. They had a backstory to each and every character.
That's what I liked. I liked that each story really, truly had their own individual storyline to them. And while they all teamed up with Liner on this adventure, they all had their own, and that's what I really liked, seeing that development of their own different lines. Yeah. Being that it was so heavily influenced by anime, I liked how you could really hear it and you could see it in the storyline, and how they interacted with each other was very anime-esque.
Yeah.
The story tended to split off a little bit towards the middle part, and you could either pick. There's two Raventails, and the Raventails were Misha and Orica, and those are basically, I don't know, they're almost like androids, really.
Well,
that's how I envisioned them, like humans slash like cyborgs, where you can install crystals into them, and
the way I understood it was that some girls were born as Raventails and some girls weren't. Some of the characters, though, they say that they were created. So I guess it's really up for debate on
what they really are.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so your party consists of Orica and Misha. They're the two main Raventails in your party, and at least in the majority of the game. And I chose Misha's path.
And I chose Orica's path. And it's interesting because they explain what the other... Because you don't get to see, if you chose Misha's path, you don't get to see what the characters did on Misha's path, or if you chose Misha's path.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So they still explained what kind of happened, not in full depth, which really, makes you kind of want to go back and...
Yeah, they reference towards the end of the game, after your party joins all back up again, they reference some of the items that being played with Misha. They reference some of the tasks that you would have played with Orica, and Phallus. They talk about fighting Phallus, and they reference that he's a bad guy, but I didn't see it. Like, all of a sudden, he's just gone.
You mean Phallus? Is that his name? I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was Phallus. Phallus.
Well, yeah.
About the same. The bishop.
Who...
Did you fight him?
Yes, I think so, yeah. You end up fighting him.
Because I know that he attacks Platina.
Did you find out what his real name was?
Yeah, Kyle.
Kyle, yeah. So yeah, I honestly thought that Misha's Path also fought him.
No, not at all.
So that's very interesting.
And I noticed that there were some glitches in the text too. That there was one glitch where Orica wasn't even in the party, and they were talking to Orica or something.
Oh,
they were
really?
referencing Orica, like the writers were getting mixed up in what storyline was what.
That's funny because I don't think I had seen that at all.
Because I think the majority of the game you're supposed to play with Orica.
Well, yeah.
I think that's the goal, and I didn't go. I liked Misha better. I just did. I thought her storyline was more interesting, just in general.
Sure. So the interesting thing about this game is that it's almost borderline a dating sim game. Not quite. You form these almost romantic relationships with one or both of the girls.
I have to say, there's a lot of sexual references.
Yes. It's riddled with them, especially in the beginning, not so much near the end.
There was so many awkward moments that I'm sitting here playing and I'm like, really?
Well, and aside from just the innuendos, some of the characters, like, are the Tenba...
The Tenba tribe?
No, not the Tenba tribe. Oh. The Tenba leader. Oh. I don't even know what her name is.
Yeah,
You dealt with her more than I did.
Yeah, I don't remember her name either. And she is
barely even wearing anything.
She has these, like, 2 little metal strips coming out just covering her nipples, and that's it. Yeah, but the dives. So there's these like side storylines to each of the Raventails, and you go into their cosmosphere, which is like their brain, their memory, their deep feelings, and you're experiencing their feelings in a visual aspect, and they kind of have their own storyline to it to reveal some of their deeper feelings and some of their deeper stories, they're a deeper part of their backstory, and you get to away. I loved that aspect of it, but I noticed that they didn't really coincide with what was actually going on in the real world. Like they would do something. I would dive with somebody and experience a storyline, and then we go out into the real world, and you would have this like conversation with that same person about him questioning things that he already experienced in the dive. Like he was asking questions, but he would have already known, it just seemed to kind of contradict itself. Though I kind of understand, because from a development point of view, you wouldn't really know if the player had focused on, that aspect of the story.
I agree with you to an extent. I really think that as far as... Because there were times where, I don't have a specific example, but there were times, at least for me when I was playing with Orica, where something would happen and they would kind of touch on the subject, or even as far as you would craft something specifically in coinciding with your Raventail, a specific item that they asked you to in your Cosmosphere and doing it in real life, and that affected your Cosmosphere. So I think they did coincide a little bit. I agree, though, as far as context goes, he does ask questions like he has no idea, even though we went through this whole story.
Right. Do you think this game could be played without doing the Cosmospheres at all?
I think so, but that's one of the things I liked about the game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm curious if you could actually go in and play the entire game without even doing it. I think
so. I mean, I think there might have been a small handful of things.
Level up your party to 99 and just craft the best items that you can and not even do the whole dive thing.
I think, though, without it, as far as the storyline goes, it would make for a weak storyline because it would progress the relationships. So the relationships don't seem as forced if you have this Cosmosphere experience. It just makes a lot of sense. I think it adds a lot of just you're diving into this person's most center self, and you're getting closer to
deepest feelings and sensitive feelings.
You're exposing a lot of feelings that you wouldn't ever. I mean, they did get kind of strange at times, but I mean, in black and white.
Well, and I think that's the point that they were making, that everybody has these weird deep feelings that fight each other from time to time. And it's true. I see where they were. I see the direction they were going in the story.
I think that
it was a very important part to the story. If you were to play the game without doing the dives, you would miss at least 50% of the story.
It's part of the experience. I really think, though, that if this game were to, not that I think it will or if it should, I don't know. But I think if it were to be remade, I think it would be so, like, if they could just even push it even further to further this relationship, I think they could do a lot more with it now as opposed to when it was made back in 2006.
Something else that I really liked about the story was how the flow of it. It was a constant flow of, you knew exactly where you were going, you knew exactly who you needed to talk to, you knew exactly where you were heading. And, I really like that of the story. There was no downtime in it. What little bit of downtime there was, it was mainly fighting, If you weren't progressing in the story, you were stuck fighting. And I really liked how you knew where you were going, you knew where you were heading, and it made the game really smooth and seem seamless as far as the storyline goes.
I was a little sad that there really wasn't a whole lot of side quests for this game, though, as far as, the storyline goes. I mean, there was a couple, but nothing that you could go out of your way to get more dialogue or more backstory.
Yeah, that's true, characters. But what's nice is that you could see when you hit 100% in the dialogue. Sure. I mean, you have three people who you could do topics with. You had Misha, Orica, and Shrelia, who you pick up later.
Yes.
And you can see your progression with each of them, so you can tell when you've hit, you can say, well, sure. I don't have any more talk, I have nothing else I can do with these people.
I just, you pick up, throughout the game, you also have these little shiny spots that end up being your top.
I know, I have trouble with that too.
Your talking topics. It is a tongue twister. But I mean, as far as that goes, it really would have been interesting for at least even just a small fraction of them to be, a side story. Because I don't know for if you did this with Misha or not, but when you take Orica's path, you actually lure village that got destroyed, and you got a lot of dialogue for the specific Raventail, and I was kind of hoping for more of those, I guess, even if it was just a side. Yeah,
I don't think that I would be, had I not taken Misha's path, I wouldn't have gotten as many topics with her. Where, like, Orica, I didn't get hardly as many topics with Orica as I did with Misha.
Did you, at the end of the game, you have this option to check out the extras?
I didn't do it.
You didn't do it?
I was going to, and I
looked through mine. I had gotten 86% topics with Orica. I think Misha's was not too far behind. And shamefully, I did not do all of Shirelia's.
I know. I wanted to, but I was eager to finish.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I did one dive with Shirelia, and it was so different. It was more like you were. I think what they were getting at was that you were watching a TV show, but it was more interactive TV show. It
was supposed to be simulating an RPG, but it was like watching a really bad anime.
Yeah, it was bad. I didn't really like it either.
I was really.
I would have liked to see Shirelia's ending, and that's something that I kind of wanted to talk about too in this is the endings. While I liked the ending, I liked the storyline ending, I didn't like the individual Raventail ending. For me, it was... I went back and I watched the first ending with Misha, and basically she's just like, they lived happily ever after sort of thing. And the final ending that we did, it was... She was like, well, let's travel the world together. And that was it. There was no special ending. Like, I was fully expecting, like, a full animated ending, and it just wasn't there. It was just dialogue. I mean, the storyline with Mir and having that end was awesome. And that was really cool, and you got to see everybody, and you had to... Even after the game ended, you had to go around and talk to everybody one last time, kind of, their wish thing. That was weird. but it was, I really liked that, but I didn't like the individual ending.
Yeah.
And where I was going with that was Shrelia. You know, to get Shrelia's ending, you had to do all the dives with her. And I just did the first one. While I wanted to do the other ones, I was disappointed in how the endings went. So I don't think I would even bother going back and finishing it.
I didn't finish Shirelia's this time around. I did the first time I ever played. And I'm sad to say I don't remember most of my first playthrough, but I seem to remember Shirelia's being just about the same. And Orica's was the same too. It was you join her for this music box not a company, but she sells music boxes, and it's just it. There's nothing much to it. It's just not enough. Like, you know, they went into all this work with the even if it was like like a short simulated, I don't know. They put so much work into all the other stuff, they couldn't come to an end with the endings. It's like they were more focused on having multiple endings than just a good one.
A strong ending with each individual character. Because, again, the overall ending with Mir and all that was very strong. It hit it on the head. If it would have just ended there, I would have been fine. I didn't need all the extra endings. I would have been just fine just ending it.
Speaking of, so the game, at one point, you have 3 phases in this game. And the first phase ends when you decide which Raventail you're going to go with. And then you start phase 2. And at the end of phase 2, you actually can end your game right there. They give you the option to beat it and be done. But we both chose the option to go into third phase, which deals more in depth with Mir.
Sure. I wanted to get the full experience of the game. I didn't want to just end it halfway through.
And it really explains more of Mir, who is the main bad guy in this game, if we haven't already said. And it really goes into detail about who Mir is, who you're dealing with, why the viruses are attacking. But it's just interesting that you can end it kind of so early on. Like, I think it's maybe 10 hours extra for phase 3. Maybe?
Yeah, I agree. About 10 hours.
So,
I did, though, the end, when you fight Mir the first time, at the end of that, it does do an ending.
Yes.
And
you roll credits.
I'm really fine with that ending. However, to get that backstory of Mir herself and to find out why she is the way she is makes it even more interesting.
Honestly,
that and the way we ended stuff, Shrelia was sleeping, and that's how Mir stayed at bay. And you can tell that there's more. Like, you can feel it in the game that, you know, they want you to keep going. There's so many questions left unsaid.
It's one of those endings for the first ending that you do. It's one of those endings that's just like, that can't be it.
Right.
It just can't be it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I remember playing it for the first time, and I remember thinking, no, this does not seem right.
I was so confused when the credits started rolling.
Yeah,
and
I tried not to say anything to
I even
you.
said it in the comments. I'm like, I know that it doesn't end here. I'm like, I've looked up enough that I should, you know, it shouldn't be ending now. And I even questioned if I had done something right. But it turns out that after the credits roll, you got stuff that you can do afterwards, and you have options, whatever. So, I don't know, what do you want to move on to graphics?
So, graphics. You know, the graphics were very interesting in this, because you have these sprite-type characters, like, that you're moving around on the map. But then when they talk, you actually get this, like, anime.
It reminded me a lot of a very generic dating sim.
Yeah, it was a lot like that.
It was very... I in my notes, I put a throwback to the SNES days. And it's true. I mean, the sprites are very pixelated and small. And I liked that. It had a charm to it. I do wish it would have been a little... It would have tried harder to utilize the graphics of the PS2, but for what it was, I was able to appreciate it, you know.
It reminded me a lot of Valkyrie Profile.
I thought the same thing, yeah.
Even, like, your battle formations.
Again, I could totally see this being a PlayStation 1 game over a PS2 game.
That's
but
true.
Maybe it would have ended up being, like, 3 discs of a PlayStation 1 game where it's just 1 disc of a PS2 game. Either way, graphically, it it's charming in its own way.
Yes.
It doesn't push the boundaries of the PlayStation 2, but it's
not blocky or gross looking.
Yeah.
It's tolerable and it's a good game. Honestly, I think this is one of those games that could possibly be put onto a handheld.
Yeah, I agree. I could see it being ported out for the PS Vita or something. Actually, I think some of the Surge series is on the Vita.
Oh, is it?
From what I've looked up, yeah.
Another interesting thing about this is that you have this option. It's like synthesizing. It's called graph melding. And each of these items that you get to make, they have a picture for, like everything. And it's not just a random, like, slap on a picture of something. And really,
it's like a good detailed picture of every single item in this game.
Nothing was reused. I mean, it wasn't like a palette swap or anything.
Yeah, for the most part. There was a couple items that I'm like,
they look the same.
They're similar.
But I mean, for what they're trying to accomplish, I mean, a lot of, even things in real life kind of look similar. Anything electrical and
sure,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Well, there was one that comes to mind is the piece of paper with, like, powder on it.
The white powder.
And it's, like, the same thing. The white powder and the polishing powder or something like that. They're, like, the same looking item.
But they're weapons. Their weapons all
look
very
they were all different.
The armor, they look really cool, honestly.
What I wish they would have done was I wish they would have actually changed the armor in the battle.
Yeah, that
you could do that with the Raventails when you change their outfits. They would actually change during battle, which again, that too, I wish it would have been throughout the entirety of the game. Like, how hard would it have been to do a palette swap in the middle of the game?
Well, if they can do it in the battle, why can't they do it?
That's what I thought.
Because it's not like your Raventails are really even out that much.
Right, and it's not, and even the talking scenes, they're not like they're animated or pre-rendered in any way. They're just, the single drawn picture that the face changes, and that's it. And they do it in the dives, so why not try and manipulate that?
I don't know if you've done this, but if you go through your costumes, you notice that the rest of them change, but their face
it's just their face.
It doesn't move. It's the same when you go through, and it's in the same position as you scroll through them.
Sure.
So, what about your dungeons? What did you think about the dungeons?
The dungeons were...
The tower was very repetitive.
That's the tower... It was very repetitive. There were spots that it was very difficult to see where I was walking. The platform... There's one platform there's one dungeon in the tower that kind of is in the center of the entirety of the tower. And it's like this red platform with black everywhere else. Yeah. And I found myself running into walls nonstop in that area. Bad. It was horrible.
And there was quite a bit of it during that last part.
But otherwise, their overall look was really strong. Probably pre-rendered images, which is fine. It looked really good. I noticed that they tended to, in any given dungeon, it was kind of a repeat of the same backgrounds and the same textures, which made it really hard to navigate, and it made it less interesting. But the best dungeon was the very last dungeon. The Silver Horn was awesome. It was so cool. It was, it looked like I was walking through a really big, complicated trombone.
Like a big piano or
but
something.
Overall, I mean, that dungeon was really cool looking, and it had a lot of really cool sounds to it, and it was really cool.
So is that probably your favorite dungeon?
Oh yeah, easily. Yeah. The Silver Horn was definitely the coolest.
Yeah.
What about you?
I don't know. I guess I kind of liked, which I guess I liked more the puzzle than anything, but I liked you had this option to turn these mirrors to reflect some light to finish this dungeon area. I liked that dungeon. I thought it was kind of cool, but it really looked
maybe that was one that you did on your own.
Oh, maybe.
I don't remember one like that where you had to turn mirrors.
We both need to go through and play each other's,
I don't know if I...
Sure.
I'm ready to move on.
I do wish that they had more cutscenes. There was only, you could probably count them on your hand.
And even those, when we first started the game, there was, a flying cutscene, and I'm like, oh, a cutscene! I'm like, cool, there's... these anime cutscenes mixed in. And while they did do those little animations for your Raventail songs, which were essentially like summons, that the little sprites would come out and do like a twirl move, and Misha had like a hammer throw one, and she had like a thunder arrow, whatever, and those were really, really cool. But otherwise, there was nothing. I mean, I was totally expecting full anime cutscenes in important parts, and they just didn't follow through with that, which was very sad.
That was very sad. And even the ones they had, they were very short. Like That's true. It was like more,
and it seemed like it was each time. It was just while they were flying.
Blip. Yeah, mostly.
And that was it.
I mean, they looked nice at least.
That's very true. They did. And, the dives, too. They had these anime photos during the dives, which they were very...
They were like paintings, almost like digital paintings. It wasn't like your standard like...
It was like an art book, an anime art book.
Yeah.
And they were very, very pretty pictures. The girls were very skanky, I guess. But I mean, typical anime.
And you actually
showing off the boobies.
When you finish the game, you actually have the option. You have the option to look at these different
like a gallery.
Pictures. Yes,
that's cool. Are those in there?
They yes, but you also get to pick up you pick up a random assortment of cards throughout the game, and one of the hidden cards everywhere that lets you get extras.
I wonder what those cards were for.
Yeah,
they're like super expensive, and they had no meaning other than just buying them.
The cards were... I didn't like the cards. You could recrystallize cards into items, and some of them were just tips.
I did do one card gave me this really awesome upgrade crystal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this before? I was so surprised because it was so great, and I think that's one of those is what gave me the advantage to beat the final boss.
See, I had quite a decent selection of as far as crystals went. I never really had to go out and buy any.
Speaking of crystals, let's switch to our gameplay review, because that's kind of going into what the gameplay is all about. So I mean, the crystals are basically your upgrade.
Yes, they're help you upgrade and graph meld, and they help you basically make these items and make them better, if you will. So graph melding, like I said before, is kind of like synthesizing different items. You're making these items, and you're making better items. And they have this score system of, I think it's from C to S.
Yeah.
C, B, A, S.
Yeah, yep.
And you have these different graph node crystals, which are used for enhancing your characters, their weapons, and then you're using it to also enhance your items.
If you don't utilize these, you're pretty much screwed.
You need to really learn how to use them.
I didn't use them. I tried, once I started to learn how to use them, I'm like, oh man, these are really helping my characters out. But it wasn't until the end that I really grasped the concept of it and was able to beef up my characters enough to get through the final boss.
You used them in a lot of stuff, like your magic, your character, your Raventails. I mean, you used it a lot.
Making the items tended to be really slow. Did you notice that?
Well, you can't skip.
Yeah, you can speed it up, but you can't skip it.
It gets a little repetitive if you have to make something from bare scratch.
Yeah.
So you have to go through
You got to make
the next.
Yeah,
section.
It's like you get these cards, these the recipe cards, and you go through and it tells you how to make items. Well, to make those items, you may have to one of those items that make the item. You have to make one of those items, and then you may have to make one of those items to make one of those, and it's like this chain, so you gotta make all these items to make one major item.
On the flip side, though, if you're aiming to have a much better, if you're making a weapon, you're gonna want to make it from scratch with a graph node crystal that is a higher grade if you want a good weapon, or depending on what you need, or depending on the circumstance. So, I mean, it is very important to do it from those earlier steps, too. It seems complex, but it really was not complex to me when
I didn't think it was complex at all. And when you're playing the game, they don't. I think I had an option to do the tutorial that I just skipped, because it really is one of those that you kind of pick up and you learn as you go.
Speaking of tutorials, if we can steer in this direction, I found myself, I went back twice for tutorials. The first time was to learn, which I already knew, but I think I needed some clarification on the ambient field and the harmonics and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't grasp that
I had
at
to
all.
go back and look at something, and I figured it out. But I feel like that when I went back into the help section, that I learned more than what they explained it on the first initial tutorial. And I could be wrong.
I didn't read any of the tutorials. Actually, I didn't understand the harmonic field of the battles. I didn't really understand what the pink bar at the bottom was either. I finally understood that when somebody in the chat told me that it was to get better items. And then it all made sense. And I'm like, oh... Though I didn't understand how the bar raised, I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew that, every now and then you would get a little animation that said, 200%, and it's like, okay, great.
I don't know. I don't think they did a good job explaining it, but I feel like that when I looked back at the help section, I understood it.
I probably would have understood it too if I'd have read some.
So,
I avoid reading at all costs.
On the flip side, though, I don't know if they mentioned this. I don't recall seeing it at all, but the map. They never mentioned that you could see the map. I had to tell you that how to access the map.
I was going through the first couple dungeons without a map, and I thought, man... not only do every area look so much alike, I am horrible with directions.
And this is one of the things I dislike about the game is there's a lot of, not a whole lot, but there is a little bit of backtracking. You have to walk all the way back, all the way back, back and forth.
And I put in here a note to talk about the walking part, because I would rather have had a open world where the overworld you could actually walk to those locations, but because there was so much back and forth, it would have made the game so much longer trying to go back and forth had I needed to walk. Now they could have compensated that with an airship, which you get an airship for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
And
it allows for fast traveling, but for a while they're going to Platina, which is at the top of the top-ish of the tower, down to your other areas down below.
Lower than the
you
first level.
You had to walk through, I think it's the Frozen Eye, is that what you went through? You had to go through it a bunch of times, and then you'd have to fight these monsters. But
the battle system is so slow. It's so bad. I was cursing this stinking battle system from, the first couple hours of playing. It just... Not only do the animations take forever to execute, but then you also have the Ravatails, the enemy Ravatails, that call in more monsters. Enemies. And it's like... All of them did this. Not only did they summon more people in, but then those guys would do alerts, and they would summon more people in. It was like this constant flow of enemies.
There's a lot of enemies that can be all in. Even at the start of the battle, you can have 6 enemies already.
4.
4?
You can only have 4. Yeah, you can only have 4.
It seems like there's just so many more.
It was, and you can't attack the person in the back. So if you're sitting and attacking and you're trying to get them all, I called it staggering because it kind of was. You had to get them to a special level in order for it to take more damage. The enemies had a level bar. As you attacked them, their level went up. So it was kind of like I call it staggering, like from Final Fantasy 13, where you had to attack them to get them to take more damage. But yeah, I mean, the whole battle system was very, very sluggish, and it made some areas just infuriating to try and make it all the way through a dungeon. And especially when you have to backtrack so much, you're going back and forth, and it's like, I just want to get there. I don't want to have to fight all these guys, so you can run away.
Did you use there's an item which I don't know what it's renamed otherwise, but I
didn't find that item.
The Pika?
Yeah, I didn't find that item.
This item, you have 2 items. The Pika lets you eliminate the encounters, the enemies. Your bar goes down to 0. But then the other item is called Boo, which they might be named different, but mine was named Peekaboo. And Boo lets you actually call the enemies, which I only used it in one dungeon because I used it for some armor. I needed to get a star something for the star tiara. Oh. And I think that's what it was, the star tiara. And that was the only time I used it, but I used the Pika a lot near the end when I just was done with the game. I wanted it over.
Nope.
That's too bad. It probably would have helped you.
But, no
wonder you had so many more hours than me.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent, that, and there was a boss towards the end that I spent like an hour on. Well, actually, there was 2 of them. There was the bosses back to back. One of them kept calling more enemies in.
Go on.
And then the other one kept healing itself. So it was like I had one boss that was in the back, so you couldn't attack him, and he kept calling more people in, more guards or whatever. So you had to defeat all the guards up front to attack him, and he would just keep summoning more people in. I swear I spent a good hour on that one boss.
How many hours? You said 44?
44.
44 hours. That's a 5-hour difference between you and me. And the battles, I believe honestly that the battles alone could be a good.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
It took at least a good couple minutes per battle, and there's a lot of
I
battles.
didn't want to run away from all of them because I wanted to level up. But towards the end of the game, once I figured out that I could make all these special pieces of armor and special weapons, that it was like, oh well, this game just got a lot easier, and these battles are going a lot faster. But it's still, even then, the battles were ridiculously long. I definitely marked in our scores here, the battle system was a big bomb for me, and I while I liked the battle system, I understood the direction they were heading. I think they could have done something to make it a little bit faster, maybe eliminating the animations, or not having so many enemies in one area at any given time.
What's funny is that I felt like that I agree with the battle systems, but I felt like the boss battles were almost too short.
They were. Agree.
Too.
I agree completely.
Even like you're experiencing this new music, and you're kind of like, yeah, we're about to have this big battle, and my characters are buff, they're ready for this, and then it's over in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I swear, I will sit and have a boss fight that takes me forever, and I'll have a boss fight that's super easy, and I'll get through really fast. And then immediately afterwards, I'll run into a random encounter and almost die. I don't know how many times that happened to me. It's like, there's some sort of balance that they've messed up with,
Did you ever game over at all?
Once? On Mir.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had to fight the very final boss twice. And the first time, it was just because I didn't have enough, what's the
horns,
yeah, I didn't have enough
There's a couple other
items to revive my people. But once I had a chance to play the game again, I understood, or once I fought her again, I understood what I was doing, so I was able to kind of tweak my crystals and everything to make it work a little bit better for my tactic.
I really think that I only had troubles with 3 bosses this entire game. But the rest of them, it's almost disappointing. Like, you're expecting, even if it's just, there's no satisfaction of just even plowing them with, like, attacks. Like,
the only boss that really frustrated me was that ABR boss.
The final round with him.
He was just frustrating. It took me the longest time to understand that I had to kill the one that's healing, and even then
you had to have it in the delete mode.
Yeah.
So you defeat it magic just to get it to shut down.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Pretty bad. Although I liked the concept of these enemies absorbing your red magic. Like, it adds a little bit more
I liked that too. Yeah, there was only like maybe 2 enemies that did that, or 2 bosses really. Oh, you know what? I did want to talk real quick about the jumping mechanic in this. And walking around, in general, walking around the map. I had so many times when I would walk through a door, and I would continue walking, and it would like boot me out of that room back to the last room. Or I would have it where I would walk in and I would turn the corner immediately, and I would go back through that room again.
I don't think I had that too many times. Troubles.
That, and there's this jumping mechanic in the game that you rarely use, and yet I'm constantly accidentally pushing it.
Oh, I was always jumping around.
I was jumping around a little bit too, but it could have been more fun.
Silly that
they could have utilized it more. I think they could have added more obstacles to actually use it.
Is that you could walk downstairs, no problem. Which, whatever.
But you had to jump upstairs.
Jump up the stairs. What sense did that make? But
I can slide down the stairs, but I have to really leap up them.
I did have troubles with a couple areas that were stairs that like rounded each other. Like there was a couple times where it was like tight, sharp turns. Like there was like a small platform in one of the dungeons, and I could never get up the stairs in one go.
It seems like I had one of those too. I don't remember where it was, but yeah, I think it was towards the end where I was jumping up to get onto the stair. Oh, I think it was in the library. That you had this one thin little spot that you had to jump on, and if you didn't hit it perfect, if your directional arrow wasn't in the perfect spot, you would miss the platform. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, from all those bad things, the gameplay was great. No, it really wasn't that bad. It's just there was a few key features that really made this game a lot more difficult than it really should have been. But let's move on to music, because I think music was the highlight of this game.
It was the main ingredient of this
and
whole
thing. The game really centered around vocals and singing, and
these hymns.
The game really centered around that, so it just... to have actual music, play that complements that theme so well was so great. It was so nice.
I thought it was interesting that the music really was not the same as the hymns. Like, the hymns were I guess they kind of went hand in hand.
They did. I thought they did. They did have some songs that were a little more vocal than other songs, but they overall went together really well. Mm-hmm. But there were some songs that I remember listening to, and I remember saying on the stream, "Oh, I'm really digging this song. Like, I'm really into this song." There was a couple of
and
I'm totally gonna try and find the soundtrack somewhere, and see if we can buy a copy or something.
I know.
I'm sure that there's a shop. There's a shop that's not too far from here that they might have.
Oh yeah, the anime store.
Yeah, they might have a copy of it.
I have to say, through the times that we've worked together on occasion in the past 2 months, and we were always constantly making fun of the rapping.
The rapping, yeah.
It wasn't really full on rapping.
When I first started playing the game, I thought that the rapping was in almost every song.
Yeah.
And it really is only in that one battle song. And
it's just a lot in the very beginning.
Did you notice that they changed the battle theme as you changed phases?
Oh,
And once you hit phase 2, the battle theme changed. The phase 1 battle theme had the rapping in it, and the rapping was towards the end of the battle song before it looped back around again. And it drove me crazy, this weird rapping. This weird rapping. And then after phase 2 it went away, and I'm like, oh, finally it's gone. But then they brought it back during one of the boss battles. Did you notice that?
I didn't.
You didn't?
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered you.
I don't remember which one it was, but I just remember thinking, oh man, the rapping's back. But otherwise, they did have some Japanese songs, and I think they had some songs that was like the Ravatail.
Like the hymns.
Yeah, the Ravatail language.
I suppose.
But, I mean, they had some really, really cool songs.
Yeah, there was a couple on there that I liked.
They did have some weird stuff like the airport. Airport. Airport.
I walk around my house now saying that. My husband hasn't even played the game, and he says it now too.
Airport. Yeah, it was... That was probably the worst of it, but really, it's not enough to give it a bad score.
No,
it really isn't.
It was really.
The music was so good, and keeping the flow going to our overall thoughts of the game, how everything goes together. the music, the art style, the gameplay, while the gameplay was on the lower end of how I feel about the game. And the storyline. The music and the storyline go together really well. The art style, while it's kind of last gen type art style, it really went well together with everything. I really enjoyed the game. I enjoyed just being able to experience all that, trying to experience everything this game had to offer. I kind of wanted to touch on how you were saying that there's no side quests, and you know, a lot of these RPGs have those side quests that have like a super boss and have, you know,
and this
really difficult dungeons, and I just didn't see that.
Yeah.
I think
there was only one that I knew of, and that was when you were talking with Tastiella, I believe. And that was to get the bad ending, supposedly.
I think.
I didn't read a whole lot
I don't
into
know
it.
if can you even beat her.
I don't know.
Oh,
I think
because
so.
I was gonna try and fight her, but I didn't think that it would be worth. Because the endings weren't animated, so I didn't care enough to actually try and get through it. But yeah, I wondered if she was even beatable.
I don't know. That'd be something. If you guys ever play, let us know. Because I don't know.
Yeah, I would have given it higher marks for the battle system if the battle system was faster. But I
didn't think it was that slow.
I could see myself playing this game again later once I kind of get over playing it right now.
Yeah,
you know, I'm done.
It's not something you can do back to
I'm
back.
done right now. I wouldn't play it again immediately, but I could see myself saying, you know, I could go for that game again.
Would you consider playing the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If it's similar to this, yeah, I liked it enough that I could see, especially if they keep the same music or, you know, the same composer at least.
Yeah.
Because the music was definitely the highlight of this game.
Yeah. It was pretty good.
And the story. I mean, really, it's
the
rare.
Story for me is where it was
It's
at.
rare to have a video game that the storyline and the music go hand in hand. Like, usually the music is kind of its own separate entity, where the music really goes hand in hand with the storyline, and that is rare, and I really, really appreciated that.
So you streamed most of the game too.
I did, and I have to say that it's really cool to see these hardcore fans that are jumping into the stream and saying how much they love the game, and it's just it's cool that they have this respect for the game, that they can come in on this noob that's playing it and, you know, offer support while not giving anything away, and I really like that, and, you know, props to those guys for coming in, and yeah, thanks so much for hanging out, because that's what the Twitch stream is all about. It's all about just hanging out and enjoying a good game and playing together and offering thoughts and ideas, and I like that. And, you know, while you may absolutely love Ar Tonelico, you know, join us for the rest of our games. What are we playing next?
We're playing Spyro next, and I'm going to be streaming it this time on Twitch.
Well, we're playing Final Fantasy 1.
Yes, we'll also be playing Final Fantasy
So we're going to play those two together for a while.
Yep. Sorry, I'm just excited about Spyro.
You're right, though. Our next review is going to be Spyro. Yep. So that'll be coming out, this is July, so August 1st. And, yeah, Kaylee's going to be streaming Spyro, so check that out. And I'm also going to be streaming Final Fantasy 1. So you can watch us both. Speaking of, I was going to say something after the podcast, but I may as well. I made a schedule thing in our shared folder. So we'll have to schedule ourselves so we're not overlapping too much. But yeah, so check that out. Let's go over our scores real quick.
Sure.
So for the story, I gave it a 9 out of 10.
And I also gave it a 9 out of 10. I loved the story. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to
I'm kind of surprised that you didn't go 10 out of 10 on the story. What's holding you back?
I don't know. I guess it sometimes was just kind of cringy. And I wish, like, again, the ending, I think that really was the biggest part. There just was not enough story for the ending. I wanted to know more about what happened, I guess. Not just they worked together happily ever after.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, I think that's what helped me back.
That's what's holding me back, too, is that while you got a good backstory of the characters, you're not following all the way through to the end. But that's right.
I gave the graphics a 5 out of 10, and my main reasoning was because I guess I felt like since they didn't do the like the overworld, like there was no running back and between. Like I feel like that if they weren't gonna go through the trouble of doing that, it could have been put more into, even if I don't know. I wanted more, I guess.
I gave it a 6 out of 10, which is a little bit higher than you, which surprises me again. Mainly it's lower on the scores because of it not pushing the envelope with the PS2. I understand that they wanted to bring back that golden age of RPG style video games, but I think if you're going to dumb down the graphics, then you need to bring it when it comes to cutscenes. That I think they could have animated cutscenes and still had room on the disc for the rest of the game. But, you know, it is what it is.
For what we had, though, still, it was fairly good. Not to discredit it at all.
Oh, yeah, and it deserves at least a 5. But, you know, it could have been better.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Gameplay, I did a 6 out of 10.
I did a 7 out of 10.
The battle system just kills me.
I don't think it bothered me as much as it bothered you.
I know, but I've said enough with the battle system.
He's made his peace.
I've made my point. The battle system sucked. But the music, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Me too.
The music was amazing in this game. I'm so excited to... can you play the music in the extras?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I think you can also watch the cinematic type, the videos, the FMVs, or whatever. The two
that they had.
2, 3.
the intro video.
Yeah, probably. Well.
And then what's your overall score for it?
I went with 8 out of 10.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's a fairly good.
While it's a very, very good game, it had just a few downfalls, and there's nothing wrong with that. So my score was 39 out of 50.
And likewise, mine's 39.
39, so it's 78 out of 100, which is pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
That's a good, solid high C.
And together, let's see, I got 44 hours. What's yours?
I was 39 hours and 30 minutes. So probably closer to 40 than 39 because I saved and then there was a little bit of extra
So that's dialogue. A good, solid, 45 hours of gameplay. That's pretty good. Nice. Or 80, I was going to say. Yeah. I said 45. I meant 85.
I was just thinking you were talking about yourself.
Yeah. I'm always talking about myself.
A solid 15 hours of battles. No big deal.
So yeah, that's our review for Ar Tonelico.
Yay!
So, let's switch gears. We played another game, too, today.
Oh, yeah.
Where is my case? I put it somewhere.
We didn't play the game we wanted to play, and I'm a little disappointed.
I don't know what happened to it. Oh well. We played was Mary-Kate and Ashley, Sweet 16...
Driver's License Edition.
It was awful.
It was a bunch of garbage.
If you want to see our first reactions to it, go ahead and check us out on YouTube. Just look us up at Zap Night, and you can see
the slow reactions. How slow and painstaking it was.
It was
pretty bad.
It was so long. I wanted to try and play an hour of this game, and we barely made it through the hour. And even then, it was already repeating itself. Yeah. It was so bad.
The funny thing is that I was not expecting this, but almost like it was trying to be a Mario Party type.
That's exactly well, and that's what
really
I consider it too, is like a really, really, really bad Mario Party. I bought this game for $2.99 at a thrift shop.
How much were we thinking it was originally?
Well, there's a sticker on here, a used sticker for $9.99.
So that means it was more than $10.
It was more than that, yeah. I mean, somebody paid top dollar for this thing, and I can't imagine why.
I would not pay a penny for this game. I would pay someone to take it from me.
I didn't like Mary-Kate and Ashley anyway, but
what?
I'm sure if some people did, maybe it would be like, oh, Mary-Kate and Ashley, yeah, let's play. Let's see. Mary-Kate and Ashley, Sweet 16, Licensed to Drive. And it's got this awesome slogan that says, real girls for real games for real girls. Can you think of any real girls that would have been like, yes, this resonates with me?
You know, this is the type of game that you give a kid to keep them busy for, like, 10 minutes if you need to, like, do something really quick. Like, that's just something... And they would probably get bored of this before we even got bored of it, if that's even possible.
It was so
because we were pretty much done within, like, the second.
Repetitiveness. It was like, you could do the same 2 courses in either a ATV or
there was
a jet ski.
And then there was a little bit of surfing. Which...
Oh, yeah, a little bit of surfing. Now, we didn't even... And that was the mountain. We did the mountain trail one. So, I mean... Oh, they had the canoe.
The canoeing. The
canoe.
Endless canoeing.
That was really bad, too.
And, you know, the interesting thing about this game is that they had controls and things that you didn't even use. Like, they were telling you about a camera view that you didn't even use.
Yeah, maybe that's if you play one player.
Maybe, that might be.
It's the only thing I can think of.
That's just lazy.
Can we say anything good about it?
Well, it sounded like they used the real Mary-Kate and Ashley voices.
I would be surprised if they actually did.
Maybe they found it from like an old show or something.
The music was really bad in this game too.
Danny hated the music.
It was like,
although it did sound kind of like something that would have been playing like late 90s.
What's the year on this thing?
I think it was 2000 something.
2002. So yeah, I mean maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean it makes
it would have been more the pop music back then, but it was like generic pop. It was like the kind of pop music that you would download for like the free royalty free music. It was just, I don't know, it was really funny.
The game, while dealing with Sweet 16, was definitely not geared towards 16-year-olds for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that was just a
can't wait to be 16.
Trying to relate to young kids, young girls. But yeah, no,
I don't know about you, but that was
bad.
not how my 16th birthday
No, but
went.
you know, I could see like elementary school kid really liking that game.
Yeah, that's why I said you give your kid.
Yeah, you give it to them, and they would like master it and then torture you with it till the end of time. Maybe there's somebody out there that really loves this game.
Mary-Kate and Ashley. Sweet 16.
Real games for real girls. Well, I think that's it for our episode 1, our official first review episode.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know, me too. I'm more excited to get to moving on.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 1.
Our game was dragging on, though. I won't lie.
Yeah, I know, and I was so ready to just have it beat. But I'm glad that we did it. Pulled through our first game. Final Fantasy and Spyro coming up next.
You're more excited for Final Fantasy than
Absolutely.
Spyro. I'm so excited for Spyro.
Yeah, I'm excited for Spyro too. I like Spyro a lot.
Well,
so yeah, August Spyro. Twitch, twitch.tv/Zapnight, Facebook.com. I don't know, is it /Zapnight? I think it might be. Zapnight Gaming, probably.
You can catch us on
you can see everything at our website at zapnight.com. We have links to everything on there. You can see our blog. Brandon did an awesome blog a couple weeks ago.
Oh, Fire Emblem?
Yeah, that was really cool. Check that out. Give that a read. It deals with character deaths in the video game. Permadeath.
Sounds so official.
Permadeath. It sounds like death metal. Permadeath metal.
I'm sure it's a thing.
And probably.
It probably is a band.
But yeah, so check us out and leave us some comments, shoot us some emails, let us know what you think, give us some tips and hints and tricks and concerns
for our health, our mental health. Well, I don't know. After playing Ashley, maybe.
Yeah,
so if you know a therapist out there,
we could use one after this game. No, all right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for downloading Zap Night, and we will see you next month.